Hey folks, Wally DM here, and before we start with the puzzle, I do want to let everyone know that the Journal of Puzzle Encounters has been nominated for 2 ENnie Awards. If you're not familiar with the ENnies, they're like recognition for TTRPG writers, and the Journal of Puzzle Encounters has been nominated for Best Book Supplement and Best Ebook. So in the description below and in the pinned comment is going to be a link that will take you to the homepage for the ENnies, and voting has now opened up to the general public for a short time. So after you watch this video, if you don't mind following the link and casting a vote for the Journal of Puzzle Encounters, I would greatly appreciate it. Now let's get on with today's puzzle video. Hello there, adventurers, and welcome to Wally DM. Today our adventuring party is exploring an underground cavern that used to be home to an ancient civilization. As they go deeper and deeper into the cavernous system, they finally come into a clearing that has a pebbled beach, and then it opens up to a pond or a small underground lake. Now, after 20 feet of this beach, it ends up into clear blue water, but sticking up out of this clear blue water are 4 strange totem heads. Today we're going to take a look at a puzzle that you can find in Wally DM's Journal of Puzzle Encounters, and this one's called Skipping Stones. So in this puzzle, our adventuring party enters an underground cavern that has a pond or a lake. There's going to be about 20 feet of beach that's going to be covered with sediment, sand, and a bunch of pebbles and rocks, and then they're going to be able to get to the water's edge. Now about 40 feet out from the edge of the water are some peculiar, strange-looking totem-like figures, but only the head of each of these totems is sticking up out of the water. In fact, it's right up to the level of the mouth of each of the totems. Now, if our characters are perceptive, they're going to see that this extra long forehead on each of the totems has a bullseye-like design at the top. And for demonstration purposes of this video, where these flowers are on these totems is going to be that bullseye-like design. And also for demonstration purposes, I have put each of these bullseye designs above the head of each of these totems. So our front left has this design, our back left has this design, our back right totem has this design, and our front right totem has this design. And again, that is on each of the foreheads of the totems. Now, if our characters are brave enough to go into these waters and swim underneath to see what's going on, they're going to see that each of these totems are cemented in place. There's no way to move them. But they're also going to see a square platform that is in the approximate area of all of these totems. And with a successful 15 investigation check, they're going to be able to tell that there is a way for this platform to raise, and it might be something mechanical that has to do with the totems. But other than that, there is no way to be able to determine what's going to be able to raise that platform up out of the water. Now, if our characters decide to swim up to these totems, they're going to be able to get a better view of each of these bullseyes that are painted on the foreheads, but they're also going to be able to see that the mouths are fairly hollow, and in fact, it looks like water just laps in there and goes down the gullet of each of these totems. And once again, each of these totems are sticking up out of the ground at mouth level. So at this point, our players are probably going to struggle to solve the puzzle. There's not a lot of direction and no clear way to proceed. So we're going to allow the characters to make a DC 15 intelligence check, and on a success, they're going to be able to determine that these are not bullseyes that are on top of these totems' heads, but actually they are rings or ripples. They represent when a rock hits the water and the water ripples out. Now the next thing that I would do is I would allow a Arcana check of DC 12 that would allow the characters to determine that a Detect Magic might be a good spell to cast at this time, and if the characters cast Detect Magic in the area, they're going to see that a few of the rocks on this pebbled beach are actually magical, and it's very strange that the rocks that are magical are flat on both sides. Now there are all kinds of different rocks and pebbles on this beach that are all different shapes and sizes, but again, the only ones that are magical are going to be flat on both sides, and all of them are going to be able to fit in a character's hand. Now, if the characters continue to struggle with the puzzle, but they do seem intent on exploring the area, then I would probably put some type of hieroglyphics or something along those lines in an area that's going to kind of look like this. And this is a rough drawing of a stick figure holding a rock, looking like they're going to throw it. So with everything that's been presented here, with the rings that are on top of the totem's forehead, all of the totems in the water at mouth level, and with the magical flat stones that are on the beach, do you know how to solve the puzzle? I'll give you a second if you'd like to figure it out. Did you get it? Great. Let's go over the answer. The answer is actually going to be quite simple. We have flat rocks, they're magical, and what we need to do is the characters need to pick up these flat rocks and they need to skip it across the water and into the gullet or into the mouth of the totems. Now these magical rocks are flat and they charge as they go across this water, and each of them needs to be charged a certain amount of times. So starting over here with this totem, this one has 8 rings around it. So our fighter over here would need to pick up a stone and then skip the rock over into the mouth of here, and it needs to cross the water and skip 8 times before going into the totem. This one here will need a rock skipped 5 times across the water and into the mouth here, this one 6 times, and this one 4 times. Now I would suggest, as the characters learn that they need to skip rocks across the water, that we make this a sleight of hand check. We could just say a DC 12, maybe higher level characters a DC 15, and on success they'll be able to skip the rock the correct amount of times over into the mouth of the totem. And when that does happen, then I would probably have some type of fire erupt out of the top of the tiki totem-like figure, or perhaps the circles, rings, ripples, bullseye, whatever you want to call it, will begin to glow, letting the characters know that they have successfully activated that totem. Now once all 4 of the totems are activated, then the platform is going to rise up out of the water and a door is going to come up out of the platform, and then our adventuring party can enter this door and be taken to a different area of this underground cavern. So that is the Skipping Stones puzzle, and I thought it'd be a lot of fun just to create a puzzle where you skip the rock across the water. Now I think it's really important if the characters cast Detect Magic that they see that the flat rocks in particular are giving off a magic aura. And I don't know how exactly this would work. Perhaps those little magical rocks get a charge when they skip across the magical waters or what have you, and each time they hit the water in the order that they need to, then they charge up. So if you're skipping at the one with the 5 rings on the head of the totem, then that rock needs 5 skips across the water, and then it has to land into the mouth of the totem in order to activate it. A little bit far-fetched, but I think if you run this puzzle for your players, that they're going to come up with maybe a few different ideas on how to solve it, which would be totally fine. Perhaps they're just going to throw 6 rocks into the totem mouth with the 6 rings, or perhaps they have an archer that's going to stand back and try to hit the bullseye on each of those totem heads. It's going to be completely up to you as the Dungeon Master as to how you run it, but if you want to see how I run it, be sure to look on page 30 of the Journal of Puzzle Encounters for the full write-up. So that's all I have for you today. What did you think of the puzzle? Is this something that you could use in your game? And if so, what would you do differently? And also, don't forget, I put a link in the description below and in the pinned comment. If you don't mind, please go over to the NE's homepage and cast a vote for Wally DM's Journal of Puzzle Encounters. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching, and on to the next.